Welcome to the group chat on 2A. I'm so excited to be joined by my co-hosts, Dan Turrentine, Nina Turner, Robby Soave, and Emma Jo Morris. Welcome to you, the viewers, and especially welcome if you are on the 2A platform. This is a reminder that you can join the conversation by raising your digital hand. We would love to get you into the conversation. And as of next week, we are going to be back in studio together with each other, which we are super, super excited about. Another reminder, the ethos of 2A is peace, love, and understanding, and the presumption of grace for all. So please, please, no smack in the chat. And just an exciting, cool thing, which is that Nina is tuning in from the Boilermakers Union in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where she has just been made an honorary member. I think Nina is one of very few people who both went to East Palestine and to Flint, Michigan. This woman, her heart beats for the working class of America, whichever side they're on, and we love her for it. So congratulations on your new honorary membership. All right, on to our first.
And it's not the first time she's been to South Carolina. Unlike some other Democrats, she didn't just find it on a map.
Whoa, Dan. Friendly fire.
Exactly, love it. All right. Our first topic, obviously, we're talking about the Trump administration accusing President Obama of treason. Now, even in summarizing this story, it's very hard to summarize it, I think, in like an objective way, but I'm going to do my best. So here's the news. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, has accused former President Barack Obama of being part of a treasonous conspiracy during the transition to Trump's first presidency. So here's the allegation. Obama and top national security officials rushed through an intelligence assessment on the eve of Trump's inauguration, in which they falsely claimed that Russia intended to get Trump elected, and that was the effect and the impact of their interference in the election. Based on declassified intel, Gabbard says there was no Russian interference intended to help Trump, and that Obama basically ginned up this phony intelligence to cripple Trump's administration. In other words, Gabbard's accusing Obama of fomenting a slow-mo coup, basically at the end of his presidency against his successor. And Gabbard has recommended the Justice Department investigate and prosecute this alleged conspiracy. So here's a montage of Tulsi Gabbard at this press conference she gave yesterday. Let's have SOT 5.
Stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Okay, so let's start with a show of hands, as we often do. Who thinks Tulsi Gabbard delivered on what she promised, evidence that Barack Obama was involved in a treasonous coup against Donald Trump? Okay. All right, so let's start with you, Robby, because you're very suspicious of the intel community, and yet you did not raise your hand. So walk us through your take on this. Is there a there there?
I mean, I was prepared to raise my hand until you used the phrase treasonous coup, which
Okay.
is like cranking the dial up all the way. And, this is my problem in general with the Trump administration. We just have to use the strongest adjectives possible to describe anything. If you had said this was misconduct or this was really bad behavior and, that the Tulsi and the Trump administration should spike the football on this and Obama should be discredited, I would totally have agreed with you. Just treasonous coup is like a lot. I would require like a trial before we got to that. And also nothing's going to come of it because based on the Supreme Court's decision with respect to Trump's own executive power, I think this similarly falls under that Obama technically had the right to do it, even though it is very bad. There is a there in terms of what we've learned, which is that, yes, the intelligence community knew there wasn't a lot to the Russian efforts to interfere in the election, that there was no hacking of machines, that there was no collusion with the Trump campaign. And Obama was not satisfied with that and pressed them to reach a stronger conclusion. And then on that very same day, you started seeing media reports that relied on anonymous intelligence officials saying, oh my God, this is insane how connected Trump and Russia were, and it's so bad, and you got to believe us. And that points directly to Barack Obama. It's very bad. It's terrible. I would say it's a example of a weaponization of the Justice Department. Treasonous coup is too much for me.
Okay, so just FYI for all the listeners, Robbie's summary just there of what actually happened is the best summary you'll hear anywhere. It's
Hey,
like the first time I haven't had to like replay it and listen to it 4 times to figure out exactly what's being alleged. Dan, do you agree with Robbie?
No, not at all. And I don't even agree with him characterizing some of that stuff as fact. That's just not true. I mean, look, to me that this is ridiculous. But if this is what they want to do 10 years later with all the victories they have, like, and this is the conversation. Look, there are 3 indisputable facts here. Russia interfered in the election. Everybody agrees with it. Even Devin Nunes, even Tulsi Gabbard got up there and said it was to sow chaos. The chaos they sowed was to hurt one candidate. The candidate they thought would win, who was Hillary Clinton. They hacked her emails. They disseminated them to sow chaos with the left. They bought ads on YouTube and Facebook targeted to suppress and demoralize the Black vote, to incite white working class voters, and they unleashed chatbots. All of that is not in dispute. What the administration tried to do, or Tulsi did, was to say, well, they didn't try to help Trump. Okay. They tried to hurt Hillary, and in a close election, that turned out to help Trump. So I get it. There's a difference. But the only reason we know like all the facts is from our intelligence agencies, who, by the way, I left out a big fourth one. There is no dispute that the Trump team talked to the Russians. There's no dispute about that. The question was there collusion? I respect Mueller's report, but Robbie, to say that that there was no collusion at the time, nobody knew that. All we had were tapped phone calls and records of people meeting.
Emma.
I was going to say there's a series of incorrect statements that Dan just made, or mischaracterizations of the facts, like that.
Okay, I'm curious,
but not. And I'm so sorry to be like you're wrong, but I think you're wrong on multiple points that you just made. So, to the extent that there was Russian interference in the election through quote Facebook ads and bots, that was a claim that was always flimsy and frankly like so silly that was made, that Mark Zuckerberg himself, if I'm not mistaken, addressed. And this, I mean, this has been hashed out like ad nauseum, honestly, like you said, over the last 10 years, that there was no significant spending on Facebook ads and chat bots.
Hold on a second. You just said no significant spending.
Hold on. That could have made like an impact of any like remote significance, first of all. Second of all,
I disagree.
To say that Russia only was trying to damage Hillary, that maybe they weren't trying to help, maybe they weren't actively helping Trump, but they were damaging Hillary, that completely ignores everything that Tulsi said at the podium at the White House press briefing room yesterday.
That's what's in Devin Nunes's report that she cited.
No,
and
but
Marco Rubio's.
no.
Both of their reports.
Tulsi said that they had highly damaging information about Hillary that they withheld, and
They
that
held some of it.
that there was no motive on behalf of Russia that was ever identified, let alone that they had a conspiracy with Trump and that Trump had spoken to Russians.
But hold on, you just did like 3
and another. Can I address another thing
Can I
there?
just finish the sentence?
Yeah, briefly, Emma, then let's get Robby.
Yeah, they didn't have a motive assigned, and Russia had more damaging information, like that she was psychotic and on a diet of tranquilizers every day, which you may dispute in your personal capacity of knowing her, but that was allegedly what Russia had that they withheld.
But why did they withhold information? What did
Because
Tulsi
they thought
say?
that Hillary was a predictable politician.
No,
and
I want to.
Tulsi said they
thought
withheld
Hillary
the
was gonna
information so that once she won, they were going to then release more. So just because they didn't dump everything, so you're saying they bought ads, but it wasn't that much.
Well, in addition
they
to that,
didn't
Dan,
use all their Oppo research, but they used some of what they had.
Are you suggesting that elections are
quantify not that much? It was
guys,
not.
Robby, and then I want to get Nina in here.
We can quantify the not that much. It was not that. It was a drop in the bucket what they spent on Facebook compared to what the campaigns themselves spent. And I would challenge you on that. Dan, you used the phrase narrowly tailored. That is an idea that Cambridge Analytica and others introduced that was later debunked. There is no evidence that the Russian Facebook campaign, which does exist, was tailored at swing voters or people who then didn't vote for it. There is zero evidence.
That is not true.
That is
factually not true.
It is
go to Facebook's earnings.
Subsequently disproven it. I'm telling you. I am correcting you. It was asserted by Cambridge Analytica that they knew how to tap the swing voters. That was later shown to be false. It was an example of a group trying to overrepresent what it could do in the digital market. There is zero evidence that these things were seen by persuadable voters and that Russia had any discernible influence whatsoever.
Robby, are you going to tell me?
Let's get
hold on a sec, because I'm so tired of these lies. Are you going to tell me that releasing her emails in an election that was microscopically close, in which the left did not turn out for Hillary in some cities by 2% and 3%, in which she lost by 0.5%. Are you going to tell me that the Russian hacked and strategically released emails did not influence any voters?
I was addressing the Facebook element, which did not influence voters. The hacking of the emails might have.
Now you're telling me they didn't buy a lot of Facebook ads.
Okay,
I mean,
all right. I want to get Nina in here.
Nina,
you are very uniquely situated to weigh in on this because, like, a lot of people who were in Bernie's camp did not turn out, and would you say that their interactions online had an impact on that? Would you say that the leaks from the DNC revealing the way in which the DNC had treated Bernie, did that have an impact on voter turnout, which we would then be able to say, well, Russia did those leaks and therefore they did have an impact? What say you?
Yeah, the one point that you said in terms of the revelation of what the Clinton campaign had been doing and saying about the Sanders campaign, it was the candidate herself. So I think this is a bunch of nonsense. While Russia may have done these things, our country dips into other people's elections all the time. We start talking about this like we pure of heart here. Do I want other countries dipping into our elections? No, I do not. At the same time, I don't want us dipping in other people's business either. This country does the same thing. So, Batya, it is absolutely true that when people started reading those WikiLeaks, for us, it was just a revelation of what we already knew to be true. People all up in arms about Russia. Hell, if they hadn't have been writing those emails, the near tantrums of the world and all that rotten stuff that they were saying about our campaign, then Russia wouldn't have had nothing to leak. It was the candidate herself. This country decided, and some of it may have been rooted in some sexism, ain't no doubt about it, because sexism and racism and all that stuff is still as American as apple pie, but the candidate was flawed as hell. And really what Russia really wanted is not to see Senator Bernard Sanders make it to that general election because he would be President Sanders right now. So it was a flawed candidate, Batya. In terms of Tulsi Gabbard, man, I'm just hurt. You know, I was on that trail the congresswoman at the time. I mean, she was a brave soul in the Democratic Party that really, to me, pushed her out. But that Gabbard that I saw, this ain't nothing but deflection by the Trump administration. That's all. Release the Epstein files, okay, Mr. President? While you sitting up there playing and releasing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s files, go on and release the Epstein file. This is a deflection. That's it. And then you want to try to call President Obama treasonous? Give me a break. Give me a break.
I think we're underplaying, though, to the extent to which the media, the news cycle from 2016 to 2018, 2019, we forget how much mainstream media coverage and headlines was built around the idea that because of Russia's actions, Donald Trump was an illegitimate president.
Yes.
A phrase used by both Hillary Clinton and Jimmy Carter to describe Trump due to the reporting around Russia's actions. So these subsequent revelations that there was much less there that meets the eye, and now we're learning that intelligence officials thought that initially and were pushed by Obama to find a different conclusion, is to me the same kind of weaponization and complaining about an election that was actually standard fare. There's a lot of sore losers in our political history, and I think that is relevant given how the media has spun out of control in response to Donald Trump's incorrect, by my statements, contesting of the 2024 election. The media, Obama, and Democrats also tried to spin a narrative of an illegitimate election, and that has been retconned completely.
So can I ask a question to the group?
Sure.
But how that said, Robbie, you're right. And what Tulsi Gabbard has put out has just added color to what we already knew that had been reported in 17, 18, 19, which was that basically, I don't think this is a stretch to say, there was an intelligence operation run domestically by John Brennan mainly. And it was through leaking unverified or verified false information to the New York Times and the Washington Post, who uncritically spewed it back out onto their page. And that in turn led to an aggressive series of investigations, a special counsel, and obviously 24/7 coverage of the president as a Manchurian candidate. And we were all supposed to think that Donald Trump was a Manchurian candidate. So can you guys talk slowly, because I only have a couple brain cells, of how that isn't treason and how that isn't a coup? That is a coup. You ran an intelligence operation to try to get.
Well, okay, I want to play a clip here of President Obama, because it seems to me, the counter argument here is that the report that was allegedly suppressed and the doctored fake report that was released are so different that one would have exculpated Donald Trump and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was not a Manchurian candidate. And the second one explicitly said that Putin got him elected. It's my view that those two reports, if you read them, are much closer to each other than this narrative would suggest, and that Barack Obama himself was very clear to say that the voting tallies themselves were not altered. He never called Trump. So I want to illegitimate. I want to play this. Do we have this of President Obama from
Without a difference.
December of 2016?
I can assure the public that there was not the kind of tampering with the voting process that was of concern and will continue to be of concern going forward, that the votes that were cast were counted. They were counted appropriately. We have not seen evidence of machines being tampered with. So that assurance I can provide.
So Dan, why does this not throw out the treason argument to begin with?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the only reason we know all of this stuff now, that there was no collusion, was that there were multiple legitimate investigations. Is the only reason we know. Okay? So to say at the time that they knew none of this happened is patently false. Even the Senate intelligence report, co-chaired by one Marco Rubio, who I can't wait to hear speak about this because he literally put his name on it. Nobody knew at the time. What we knew, again, was that the Russians interfered. The Russians intended to harm Hillary Clinton, right? The Russians took several actions and the Trump campaign had met with them. Okay. We knew that at the time. So they leaked out, hey, something happened here. It needs to be looked at. That is totally all legitimate. If the Chinese had met with, if the Chinese had interfered in 2024 to rough up Donald Trump, because they said Kamala Harris is never going to win. We're going to go after Trump. It's all about Trump. And it came out on Fox News or somewhere that David Plouffe met with, or let's say Doug Emhoff, because Don Jr. was there. Doug Emhoff met with the Chinese. You guys think that should be looked at? You do.
What does the Chinese mean, or the Russian?
The Chinese government. The Russians, let me ask you this. Should Russia be allowed to interfere in our elections?
What does that mean? Does that mean buy Facebook ads? Should Russians be allowed to buy Facebook ads? And
yeah, because then that's a question for Facebook.
Ads or
okay, and what did Facebook say? Facebook said they did. Okay.
You're allowed to interact with foreigners when you're
Nina back
deciding
in here, and then we're going to go to Peter. Nina, part of this like Facebook ad thing, I always thought like I'm sort of in between the two camps, because on the one hand, I don't really see the treason here. I see bad behavior, certainly, but nothing actionable. But on the other hand, I don't think Russia actually helped Trump. I think people hated Hillary, and I think they loved Trump. And the thing that really, I was much more left around 2016. But the thing that initially made me think that this whole fake news, that the Russians were amplifying and getting millions of views on fake articles was kind of BS, was they kept saying that they had targeted Black voters specifically and had convinced Black voters not to turn out by putting out a bunch of nonsense. And I was just like, I don't know a more pragmatic group in America that has such a clear understanding of what their interest is than Black voters. The idea that this group specifically would have been like foibled by a bunch of Russian propaganda. I just always thought that was ridiculous. So it seems to me like the truth is somewhere in the middle between the two. What do you think, Nina?
I'm with you, and I had to find me some paper to throw, okay? And I was going to do that for the two-way community. It is insulting.
Yeah.
Black community. And yeah, I'm speaking for the Black delegation, all of us. I'm speaking for us. It is insulting how some folks, especially Democrats, made it seem like Black people were so unsophisticated that we got duped by some Russians hacking our elections. Insulting, even to this moment, just absolutely insulting. This, to me, I agree with you, Batya. I think bad behavior, definitely not treasonous. And it is curious to me that all of this is coming out right now. Just curious. I mean, the president went in signing all kinds of executive orders and stuff. And now all of a sudden, because his back is all up against the wall over the Epstein files, now all of a sudden he wants to pull in President Barack Obama. And the distasteful nature which the man is doing it, the meme of the first Black president being arrested, pulled out, come on, man, don't do that.
Trump literally was arrested.
He did that. Well, Trump, hey, let me tell you, Emma Joe, Trump was arrested. He got, 36, 34 felonies. Hey.
No, I mean, I think it was bad that Trump was arrested. I think Russiagate was the biggest scandal in American political history. But when I saw that AI-generated meme of Obama being arrested, it's something in me was really horrified. It really just like a common criminal. There was something that did feel racial to me about it. And I don't know, it hit me in a deep place that I didn't, a deep woke place that I didn't realize I still had inside of me. All right, let's bring in Peter. Peter, thank you so much for joining us and being a fan of the show. We're so thrilled to have you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what you were saying about you're changing your mind about the things around this whole thing in 2016. It very much fits with a big aspect of my own particular journey. I think with look, I wouldn't use the term treason. I'm going to law school. I need to be precise with my legal terminology here. I think Spicer's podcast he did this week with Will Chamberlain was a pretty good look into the legal side of things there. So folks can check that out. I do think like bad behavior, I think that yes, there's like, the key point here is that it was in fact like top people at CIA, top Russia specialists who were overruled by John Brennan to come up with this assessment, among other things. Like John Brennan, who let's not forget, John Brennan ordered the CIA to spy on Dianne Feinstein, about to cover up the torture stuff. James Clapper lied to Congress about the NSA spying on Americans. These people, their lack of integrity, frankly, should not be in dispute, and it's part of a broader thing for me of, you can say intelligence community, deep state, whatever you want to call it, attempting to criminalize people who have unorthodox views of the world and how to conduct foreign affairs, which Donald Trump did when he was running for president in 2016. I think, frankly, Nina, this is for your benefit. There's a very good chance that something not too dissimilar might have happened to Bernie Sanders if he had become president and governed in a way consistent with his 2016 campaign. There was an information warfare operation done against Jeremy Corbyn in the United Kingdom, where it came out that these NGOs, which were funded by the British Foreign Office, were creating this campaign of disinformation against, try and portray him as a Russian asset, essentially, him and his team. That came out. So this is the broader thing for me here. And I do think that there should be accountability for that.
Robbie.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, it was I think the media's misbehavior here is frankly worse than anyone else's, is what I keep pointing to. The headlines, if you go back and read them, and some of them were again put back into our timelines about, that were all, I'm paraphrasing, but that were all, Russian penetration of our electoral defenses worse than previously realized, intelligence experts say. It was that over and over and over again. It was that every night on MSNBC and to some degree CNN, and it was drilled into people's heads that there was something sinister about the time period we were living through in American politics because of Russia's impacts. And I'm sorry, just a lot of that collapsed, especially the social media related aspects, which I did more writing and commentating on because I wrote a book about social media moderation. The things imagined about like Mark Zuckerberg's responsibility for Trump's rise just did not stand up to scrutiny at all, and had like serious consequences because Facebook dramatically changed its policies because it kept getting screamed at by the media. They changed their algorithm to like deprioritize news because they're like, okay, we can't show anyone any information because we're going to be accused of being like promoting Russian narratives that actually backfired and then broke the mainstream media.
Dan, do we not all agree, but like, Dan, I want you to respond to specifically that the media like really, really like mishandled whatever the report was? No,
I totally disagree. I mean, I think we're all just going to not agree on this one.
How do you look, I'm really curious, what part of this, do you think that Hillary Clinton was a formidable candidate? So much more likable and electable than Donald Trump, and that buying Facebook ads, Russia, just specifically Russia, amorphous Russia.
Emma, let me finish. I want to hear him answer that question. I want to hear him answer the question. So tell us why.
There's 5 questions that you just asked, and I love the way this is all being equivocated.
Like, I'm just curious.
So Hillary Clinton was a bad candidate. Stinks, right? Didn't run a great campaign. Right. Not great. You know what? She still almost won. Came within a sliver in 3 states within winning, but she didn't. Donald Trump won.
Yeah.
I think what eats at Trump is he got an assist that he never asked for, and it pisses him off.
No, I'm still, but you're not answering
what you're asking. So now the question is, did Russian interference move the needle? We'll never know. There's no way to quantify that. Right? Did Bob Mueller, with his 10-day out dropping of the laptop for Anthony Weiner, did that influence? Might have. Were some Bernie Sanders supporters potentially pissed off after they read emails? Maybe. Right? No, maybe. Did some of the ads from A, B, C, or D group? We don't know. Why did 1.5% of the black turnout in Philadelphia not come in? I don't know. But in a super close race.
Do you specifically think the media handled itself like in terms of covering the Russiagate scandal after the fact?
So I think, look, I think one, you have to split that. Like, you can't just say all the media. Were there parts of the media that went off the deep end? Sure. Just like on the right, there were media that went off the deep end about 2020 and still go off the deep end.
Can I quickly read? I just found the tech. This is from Jane Mayer in The New Yorker, September 24th, 2018. The headline is How Russia Helped Swing the Election for Trump. The subhead is A meticulous analysis of online activity during 2016 makes a powerful case that targeted cyber attacks by hackers and trolls were decisive. In the article, it quotes Clapper as saying, James Clapper, I think the Russians have more to do with making Clinton lose than Trump did.
So
This
Robby,
is
look,
entirely preposterous from beginning to end.
Well, Robby,
Literally
look,
made up.
Robby, Russian interference
It's really
is
preposterous. I don't know what to say. It's
well, Robby,
crazy.
look,
People
Robby, there are millions of Democrats who believe that. I can't prove they're right, and I can't prove you're wrong, because no one knows why a couple of thousand people didn't turn out in 3 states, right? That's just the bottom line. No one knows.
It's their stop the steal.
But hold on a second. Hold. I mean,
isn't the answer to that question so obvious?
Let Dan finish. Go ahead, Dan.
I agree. Donald Trump won the election. But what I'm hearing from you guys is, well, they interfered, but it didn't determine anything.
No, I'm not even saying
idea.
that.
Nobody does, which is why this whole thing is ludicrous.
I do know.
Okay, my dad.
Emma, I want to ask you a different question. I want to ask a bigger, and then I want you to
citizen having.
I don't want us to keep the same piece of this. So Emma and then Nina. Here's the problem for me also about this, which is that like Donald Trump ran on promising to move away from weaponizing the justice system, the Justice Department against political enemies. A lot of people I know voted for him because of the weaponization. They were so disgusted with it. And now it just seems like he's turning around and doing everything that was done to him. Is that not the case, Emma?
No. What happened to him was cases were fabricated and escalated essentially out of thin air. He was facing like 300 years in prison over Stormy Daniels and documents. And what is happening now is called justice. This is not weaponization. This is justice. There was a coup run against him.
You think that the cases against Trump were BS, but the people levying them against him and their constituents thought they were real and serious. Here we have a case where Obama's supporters think that the cases are BS, but the right thinks that they are serious. Like, you get what I'm saying? Nina, can you weigh in on this? Like, where does the cycle of vengeance end? Like, each side says, well, I'm not going to lay down my arms because I've put up with so much. And it just seems to me like this is like, how are we going to get out of this?
But that's not the
I mean, that's the $1 trillion question right there. He did say he's going to weaponize it, but he is. All of these flawed folks, they run, they play in the faces of the voters. They say they're going to be better than the next person. And then they end up using their power in a corrupting way. That's saying that absolute power corrupts absolutely. I do think, and that's not to absolve the Obama administration. I don't believe it's treasonous. I'm not trying to absolve his administration. I think there's a little bit of truth to everything that everybody is saying. But while we are debating this and President Trump is doing all of this stuff, he could be using that power to help the American people instead of playing games. It's curious that on one hand, he disagreed with Tulsi Gabbard on one issue, but then on this one, she got it right. I mean, he was asked by the press, basically said Tulsi didn't know what she was talking about. But now on this issue of the Obama administration and treason, oh yeah, my director, she knows exactly what she's talking about on this. He needs to make up his mind. He ran and said he was going to drain the swamp and get rid of the deep state, and he backstroking in the swamp, and he lifting up the deep state. there's just a confluence of things that happen in those elections. Yes, are there foreign actors? Do we like it? No, we shouldn't like it at all. At all.
Correct.
However, that Clinton race, hey, when you got billions of dollars and you got every powerful person known to humankind in the United States of America, and you still can't win the race, I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't Russia. It was
No, I look, I agree with you. Like, she lost the race. All of this started because Trump is alleging basically that there was no Russian interference and there was a coup. In my opinion, that is absurd. So I guess we just all disagree on this.
I just want to remind everybody here, anybody wants to jump in the conversation, raise your hand. We would love to hear from you. Emma Jo, I'm going to give you the last word on this topic before we move on.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know. I don't know.
Emma Jo, can I agree with you on something though? That's
wait, no, actually, yeah, I want to give the last word to emphasizing what Nina just said, which was, if you guys think that like Russia or like Russians buying Facebook ads has more sway than like the full force Hollywood media culture, every corner of polite society and acceptable speech being in favor of Hillary Clinton at that time, then I don't know what to say. I mean, wow, the Russians are pretty amazing.
Emma Jo.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter.
I just want to say to Emma Jo, I agree with you on the Stormy Daniels stuff. I thought that was just absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to bring in Frank. Frank, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us where you're calling us from and what is on your mind.
Okie doke. Well, am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay, first of all, treasonous. The elements of treason are not met here. I mean, they're not helping a foreign adversary or anything like that. I mean, they're not, rebelling against the government. They think they're doing something that's good for their political party, and their political party is part of the government. I just don't see treason. I don't even see any criminal activity, although some people have listed a few things here and there that could be prosecuted. Now, what I'm hoping is going to happen is that this Justice Department referral is going to come out with a statement that although this is bad behavior, it's not criminal and we're not going to prosecute. Wouldn't that be something? That's one thing. The second thing is that I looked at the Mueller indictment. Now, Mueller indicted a bunch of Russians, etc., for the crimes they committed regarding election interference. And that was, I did that on the 18th of April. And I had some notes. My major note was that the things that they did were laughable. The only thing I can remember is somebody putting a float through Los Angeles saying, comparing Hillary to Satan or saying Hillary's Satan. I mean, this just would not sway any American voter that I can think of. So there's that. But there was indictments for interference. But as I said, I don't think it's nothing is reasonable. So I'm just hoping that this thing can. I don't know why Gabbard would come out with the word treason, use the word treason. It certainly hasn't worked except to create these kinds of conversations because it doesn't seem to be in the media that much. Mm-hmm. So I don't know exactly what their plan is. I hope they can think a few steps ahead. Anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you, Frank. Those are great comments. I also noticed even in the briefing room, the questions from the reporters, like, when they feel like Trump's getting away with something or like that he's doing something good and they really wish he wouldn't be, there's an energy like a ressentiment, like they're angry and they're asking Caroline in angry voices. The questions they were posing to Tulsi Gabbard, it was very muted in the way that the press is when they know that they've got the story and when they know that they have the cards. And I think that was my read of just like that scene was like, she was quite bombastic and they were very muted. Of course, I was sitting there like unbelievably butthurt that like nobody was talking about this like Japan trade deal that's going to like change this country because of course, Trump had to, accuse Obama of treason. Anyway, thank you so much, Frank. That was really, really helpful. We've got ML Shaw here. ML, welcome in. Tell us where you are and what's on your mind.
Oh, you're muted, ML. Do you need help to? There you go. Oh, no, you're still.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, ML.
Muted, but we can't hear him.
Oh, is your microphone? We still can't hear you. You're unmuted. Your lips are moving. We suspect
Oh,
you're
and he's
talking.
obviously like the peacemaker here, right? The one whose like insight is going to bring us all together and bring down the temperature.
Yeah, hopefully now you can hear me. Hopefully.
Yeah, we can. Great.
Sorry about that. But I was just going to say, so I voted for Trump, and I'm very, very encouraged by his wins and whatnot. Well, this thing, I don't see treason. You need two or more people to witness the same overt act. Blah blah blah. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a lawyer. Several of you are, so I respect that. But the thing I think would be most interesting is where they're going to convene a grand jury if they go forward with any of this. If it's obviously not going to be in D.C. or New York City or whatever, it would be in a red state more than likely, I would imagine. But I don't see even going that far. So I'm not quite sure why we're here. I agree with I can't remember who said it, but somebody is saying, you have all these wins and now you're going back 10 years in time.
Me, I said that.
No, that was
Yeah, it's just like a perpetual machine that we can't ever go forward. I hate to see this, strangle any kind of progress because this is not good for us, generally speaking. I want to look forward. Where's my golden age? Where's my
I will say,
Yeah.
like I get justice, but justice is blind, and justice also takes time. So I mean, I don't know where we're going in this. I'm still going to support Trump and where we're going, and I think the one big beautiful bill was overly negative. I mean, if you do the polls, but if you pick apart at it, so more parts of it are popular than not. But anyway, I don't know. I was just curious as to like see, if people here on the panel think that it actually is going to go to a grand jury or whatever, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And if they're really serious about this than just a press conference, I would be curious. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny because Trump was a little bit strung up by his own petard here. He very successfully achieved immunity for all future presidents for any official acts, and so I don't see any crime here. I really agree with you, ML. Like, I think I'm one of the very few people who is like really angry about this because I feel that Trump is getting in his own way and the achievements that he is accomplishing, even as he is out there spreading what I consider to be nonsense, like it's all getting just totally hidden from view and obscured from view. Like he's flooding the zone with crap instead of starving the zone of everything but his accomplishments. And so I feel like unbelievably frustrated by that in a way that I think a lot of other people got exactly here before me. So I feel humbled by that. But I agree with you. Well, show of hands, who thinks that there's going to be a grand jury or an indictment or something coming out of this?
For Obama or for anyone?
For anyone, let's say.
Maybe. I think Brennan is in trouble. Like, I think Brennan really went hard.
ML, thank you so much for joining us. Let's bring in Chris. Chris.
Yeah, but I'll just add to ML that one of the things that's like interesting as just raw politics here is this is the side of Trump that swing voters hate.
Yeah.
It just is. The grievance machine they hate. And to your point, Batya, I hat tip to you. Had he like done a victory lap on Japan and tied it to the big beautiful bill, which is underwater and not popular, if you're a member of Congress going home for August, you're going to be asked about Epstein and now this. By the time you get to what you want to be home talking about, you're like half the crowd's going to be gone. So like as a Democrat on some level, like it's great he's on the personal grievance from 10 years ago. It's great.
I think he's doing it because the MAGA influencers are obsessed with Epstein, but I don't understand why he doesn't realize like the base, in my opinion, does not care a lot about that. And, I'm just going to say this briefly because we're probably not going to have time to get to it. But, in 5 generations, there will be middle-class families that clawed their way out of poverty and into the middle class because of this Japan trade deal. Like it's the impact it's going to have on the heartland of this country is staggering. And there is one human on planet Earth who could have pulled this off and got Japan on its knees to where it got what, and we got everything we wanted. The Japanese.
Well, we don't know it yet because we haven't seen the text.
Well, if it comes through, right, it could all.
Yeah, we haven't seen
it.
All
right, okay, let's bring in Chris. Chris, where are you and what's on your mind?
I'm in Atlanta. On another day when we have more time, I'm going to really get you guys for using that offensive term DEI hire that I hear people throwing around sometimes, but we'll get to that another day.
Who did we
Uh,
call the DEI? I don't
no, well, not you guys, but that's thrown around a lot.
Oh, we've never used that here on this show.
Well, Sean Spicer uses, he says DEI principle or whatever. But anyway, that's a side thing. What I want to talk about today, I want to challenge the unchallenged enough assertion that Trump's had all these wins. He's shut down the border, yes.
Okay.
He promised prices were going to drop like a bombshell. Inflation still persists, so that has not happened. Ukraine war is still going on. It did not cease on day 1 or day 100. The consumer confidence index was at 104 in January, and it's at 93 in the last report. So I just want to challenge the fiction, because Trump has a habit of saying if he says something enough times, everybody will believe it's true. Well, I'm not that stupid. And no, it's not true what he says. And when people like my good friend ML, who we talk on a nightly basis, says all the wins, I just want to remind people, no, that's not all this winning. And as for the Japan trade deal, I used to run M&A for a Fortune 500 company. I know the difference between talk and a deal. And let me just give you a couple of facts and then I'm going to be quiet. The effective tariff rate for stuff coming into the U.S. has been 2% effectively, not the 15 it's about to go to. Go Google what the American automakers are saying that deal did for them. They're not happy with it. And you're not going to be happy with it when you find out the new price of Japanese cars. And oh, by the way, just because the Japanese are willing to let us sell more to them, doesn't mean the Japanese people are going to buy it. They like small cars, not big gas guzzlers. So there's a lot of talk, but people who know business know that talk ain't facts. I'm done.
All right, a lot to respond to. Thank you so much, Chris. That was very rich. I want to I'll say just a few things that I consider to be massive wins, and then we can get some other people in either to agree or disagree with me or you or whatever. NASDAQ and the S&P 500 reaching all-time highs despite all of the prognostications that everything was going to crash as a result of the tariffs. We had a surplus in the government for the first time in decades last week last month as a result of the billions of dollars coming in from the tariffs. I mean, 2% of billions is still much more than nothing. Closing the border, you mentioned, 1 million people self-deported, which resulted in a 0.5% wage increase for working class Americans, and 500,000 illegal migrants are out of the workforce, and 1 million Americans are into the workforce since the start of Donald Trump's first term. It may be that the automakers are not happy about the tariffs, but you know who is? The UAW, the auto workers, the people working in those lines. The UAW hates Trump, and Sean Fine had to go out there with his tail between his legs and say, thank God for Donald Trump and thank God for these tariffs because they're a lifeline for our workers. Mary Barra at GM said, you know what? We're going to eat the tariffs. We're not going to pass that on. We projected $15 billion in profits. We'll take that down to 12 billion because we're going to eat it. We're not passing it on to the average American. That is patriotism, and that's what you like to see. I mean, I'm so sorry she's not going to get the 15 billion. It's like truly a tragedy, but I think there's going to be a lot more of that. And he has gotten, you're right, promises are not reality, but the trillions of dollars he's gotten committed to investing in AI in the future, they're creating a new, in my opinion, blue collar bourgeoisie. And it's like the stuff that you couldn't have even imagined. All right, Nina, why am I wrong?
I won't say that you're totally wrong, but I'm with Chris in this camp. Until I hear the working class people, the everyday working class people that I come across on a regular basis tell me everything is all right with them. We measure success in this country mainly by what Wall Street says is okay. Just because Wall Street says it's okay doesn't mean it's okay on Main Street. I need to know how Big Mama and Big Papa feel about this stuff. I'm not measuring it by what Wall Street has to say. It is not a victory when you have the President of the United States of America with callous conviction cut millions of people off of Medicaid when we are the only industrialized nation that doesn't have healthcare, universal healthcare, cutting people off SNAP benefits. You know, I just saw a video, colleagues, of the Venus Williams, sister of Serena Williams, and she was interviewed by a reporter, asked several questions. One of the questions, what's bringing you back? And I'm sure lots of things brought her back. But the thing she said, I'm on Cobra. Venus Williams is on Cobra. She said, now I got to come back to work so I can have me some health care. So these things, by and large, what President Trump is doing is cruel and unusual punishment. Now he does it with chutzpah. One thing this president has done is he shows the uses of power. I might not like 99.9% of how he uses the power, but he uses it. So Democrats better get a clue.
That's a very interesting point. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll come back next time. Come back very soon. Let's get in Ralph. Hi, Ralph. Tell us where you are and what's on your mind.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Oh my God, I have listened to you all forever, and this is the first time I've ever had the audacity or desire to talk. So I appreciate it. I am in North Carolina, in the suburb of Charlotte. I just find it interesting, Batya. I understand where you say that Trump throws out all this wild BS, and everybody says that, it's all a distraction. But what kind of BS has he thrown out lately? Remember? What did he say? They spied on my campaign. Everybody's like, oh, shit, that's bullshit. True. Comey lied to the FISA court 3 times using the bullshit Steele dossier. Then you had Clapper lying to the Congress, saying that he wasn't spying on Americans. And now you have Brennan, who is in perjury trouble with his misstatements. Here's the only thing I have to say. Does it come to treason? Probably not. But if they have a meeting in the Oval Office on December 9th, how does the New York Times and CNN run with that same story on the night of the 9th and the 10th when the assignments for the new ICA haven't even been handed out yet? So this is the quickest intelligence brief gathered by the government, and the press is already running with it. So maybe a willful press. Also, wasn't it Comey who went and briefed Trump in the towers and then went down and sent his little memo and shot that out to the media? So I think there's a little collusion between the NSA, CIA, and FBI during that time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Ralph. Robbie, let's get you in, and then Emma.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And you know what? Republicans do a version of this when a cabinet secretary wants to get out a news story that is favorable to them. They pick an influencer, a conservative journalist. I mean, this is how the influencers got themselves in trouble with the Epstein files release, right? They said, we've got a scoop for you guys. And then those people they picked weren't discerning enough to realize that they didn't actually have a scoop at all. But it is completely true that Democrats and, supposedly nonpartisan intelligence officials that happen to align with a kind of progressive worldview that I don't like at all, absolutely want to launder their talking points and preferred narratives through mainstream media. And mainstream media, unfortunately, has gotten increasingly lazy and just lets them do this, relying completely on unnamed sources. I always say, well, if that person believes that so strongly, attach their name to it. And then you would have more reliable information, because even if it's lower ball stuff, when it's just drama in the White House, you can always get people to anonymously bash their bosses or their coworkers. And it doesn't even have to be the White House. It could be any workplace in America. But if you make them say it on the record, then you'd be a little bit more careful about what they say. And media reporters don't like that because they want sensational, bombastic headlines and everybody being gossipy and dishing dirt. But I don't think that's actually a good trend in journalism to say, no matter, we'll let you say it anonymously, that's fine. They used to reserve that for just really serious national security reporting where you had to protect the person because they could get, killed in Afghanistan if you put the name out. Now it's like, oh yeah, the secretary in the White House wants to complain about something, give her anonymity. It's not good.
But I mean, even more outrageous, and this is how I'm going to introduce you, Emma, which is Emma was the person who broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. I don't know if you guys know that. Emma got the laptop. And what is utterly outrageous is that Joe Biden, before the election, was never even asked to disavow it. It was done for him by the media. Is that accurate, Emma?
Basically, well, it was really done for him actually by the intelligence community, similarly to this. But I feel crazy. I literally feel crazy listening And I don't know if I'm crazy or not. Like maybe I am crazy, but I feel like how is there no distinction between like inviting the most like inviting influencers on Twitter to the White House and giving them a binder that was empty LOL to the chief of the CIA going to the New York Times and the Washington Post after the president had ordered basically like a redo of a report because he didn't like the response that he got about that was in the report, ordered a redo that very day. The chief of the CIA goes to the Washington Post and the New York Times, the two obviously premier news outlets in the country, if not just because they control politics and the national conversation, goes to those outlets and injects a narrative that is obviously an intelligence operation into the cultural bloodstream. And it's the same as like office politics, like jabs, like people shitting on their boss. Not the same at all. I mean, this
this whole thing has been so debunked. It's just, but look, it's
what
one
has been
conspiracy
debunked about what I just said.
I mean, first of all, I do want to go back to the previous gentleman who said Jim Comey was engineered. The entire Democratic Party in 2016 does not like Jim Comey, who, by the way, like stuff was
likes him. He was the chief of the FBI.
He put out the whole Anthony Weiner thing 10 days out before an election. Hillary Clinton and her campaign has no love for Jim Comey.
Who cares?
I will also say, how did he not put that out?
Yes, he did. Who cares about what Hillary Clinton's opinion of him is? What he did was he gave an intelligence briefing to Trump about the Steele dossier and then leaked it to the New York Times.
That is a whole separate story. The Jim Comey stuff was totally outrageous, right? I mean, on what he did to Democrats, what he did to Republicans, like Comey's history is not going to treat Comey well.
Okay.
But where I just totally disagree, but we're going to run out of time here and we're never going to convince the other that they're right or wrong, is that December meeting was all cooked up nonsense. There are multiple reports.
Are you saying that the Steele dossier has veracity? And that they thought even that it had veracity?
It's now been proven not to. At the
time.
No.
Do you think that they thought it had veracity then?
Do you think that the Russians colluded in the interference?
That's not the question. Do you think
this is what all was going together? I mean, that's
the dossier was real.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our time. I want to give Nina a chance to jump in, and then Robby, why don't you close us out as somebody who's paid very much attention to this? Nina, and then Robby, and then we'll see you guys next week. Go ahead, Nina.
As our family conversation continues, I don't know what I'm jumping in on at this point, Batya. I'm just, to me, all of this, I'm not saying that any of it is not important, so I'm not minimizing. All I am saying, there are a whole lot of other challenges that are being neglected. I ain't had one person so far that I've talked to, and I got 3 more days to go, about any of the stuff that we're talking about right now, because everyday people, they are thinking about their everyday needs. So it could be important, but it's not necessarily spectacular in the lives of everyday people who really do need their government to comport itself in a way that is going to change material conditions. But this has been one hell of a family conversation, that I will say.
Amen. Robby, final thoughts.
Yeah, my final thought is, look, there is a politics to all this. I think Tulsi Gabbard, there was some reporting that maybe she was, I don't think on the outs with Trump, but it was, not so well positioned because of how the Iran conflict shook out, and Trump, disagreed with what he thought was her assessment at one point, or was put by the media in the position of saying that. So I think she clearly wanted to say, hey, I'm the most team player of all. Look what I got you. And I think that's totally true. And there's a little bit of and then you sensationalize it and overpromise it to some degree, like they did with the Epstein files too. And this is a constant danger for the Trump administration that I would counsel them against doing. But it still is the case that this was an interesting revelation about an issue that deserves more reporting, not not show trials, not shooting past presidents in the head in the back of the alley because we're a dictatorship or something, but it was a serious issue that the mainstream really screwed up. And like COVID and other topics that consumed our lives for years, I continue to want to get to the bottom of them, and I remain interested, even if some people are not.
Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Thank you, fam. That was great. This is what the group chat is all about, is having vigorous debates about issues that we truly do disagree about and finding common ground when we can, and at least maintaining our respect for each other and where we're each coming from. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Robby. Thank you all for coming. And reminder that next week we'll be in studio again.
Yay.
Can't wait. And we will see you all in the group chat next week, Thursday, 4 p.m. Bye.